Natasha, and thank you so much for joining me today, because if you have watched my channel, you will know that I like to get good value for my money because crafting supplies can be expensive. So I want to show you the way that I get a 3-for-1 deal on my prints that I create. So I'm going to show you using this die here. This is the Waffle Flower Geometric Cover die. Now, it does not matter which die cuts you use. It could be just a small little flower. It could be literally anything. It could be edging dies. It could be decorative dies. It could be cover dies. It could be anything. I'm just showing you just using this one example, and you'll be able to apply it to lots of things. So first of all, I'm going to die cut this out of just some regular plain white cardstock. Now, I have found that in the past, sometimes cover dies can be fun if they have lots and lots of die cutting, but I only ran this through one time, and as a crafter, this is what you want to see after you run through a die that has such a delicate pattern to it. So everything came out really easily. Of course, there is a few little bits and pieces to do too, but everything came out really easy. Now I have got my die cut that I just did plus 2 extra pieces of cardstock. Now I also put some paper down in the background because I'm going to be spraying and we want to catch the background spray. For this, I'm going to be using 2 Distress Oxide sprays. The blue is Tumbled Glass and the other one is Salvaged Patina. I'm just putting down a little bit of the spray. Now, I have this on top of one of the sheets of cardstock. So they're actually just scrap sheets. It doesn't matter what size they are because we can cut everything down afterwards. But I have my die cut here on top of a piece of cardstock and I have sprayed it. So we have the original die cut, which now also has colour on it, but it also has so much colour on it from the sprays that we are going to get another print from this. So I'm bringing in my third piece of cardstock here, carefully lift this off, and then turn it upside down and plant it straight down on your next piece of cardstock. Now you can use your fingers here, but I prefer not to get quite so messy. So I take another scrap piece of paper. Now you can take it off straight away. I actually right here got called away for a phone call, but that's okay. We come back and then we have 3 gorgeous versions of this pattern and just with one amount of ink. So we have our original die cut, which is now beautifully coloured. We have one print from that, which is also beautiful, but it's going to be a nice flat background. And then we have kind of the negative, what was left over once we sprayed on top of it. All of these are really stunning patterns. Of course, you don't want to absolutely saturate and kind of keep spraying and spraying and spraying, because then you will probably lose the detail, some of the fine detail that we got on the first one, but this is a 3-for-1 deal, so 3 prints from 1 spraying of ink is pretty good in my books. Now I'm just going to dry these. Of course, they could naturally air dry. I'm trying something else today. This is the Peony Rose Stem by Lisa Horton Crafts, and this is an embossing folder and a die. These come together, and I just wanted to try these out to see how this all goes. I used some Lisa Horton products a little while ago, and I actually really liked them. They have recently, I think, come to scrapbook.com, and so I purchased, and then I'm going to try these ones out this time. Now, I also got the layering stencils because I feel like the layering stencils by themselves are a really good deal. I wanted to see how much extra I could add by getting the embossing folder and the die. So I'm going to try these out today. Now, this is obviously all relatively self-explanatory. However, not all things are created equal. And layering things can be really tricky. And generally, I stay away from layering stamps because I find them a little bit too time-consuming. Not necessarily tricky, but it takes me time to line everything up. And that's not exactly, it's not my personal style. I don't have a whole lot of time. I honestly don't have a whole range of inks either. And often I find that you sort of need lots of good stamping inks, and that's just not what I have space for in my craft space, so that's okay. Now I am using a stamping platform here mainly for a couple of reasons. One, I use a sticky grid to hold down my sheets of paper, and so that means that it is also going to hold down the stencil, because the stencil is larger than my sheet of cardstock that I'm using. So that's the sticky grids from Sizzix that I put inside my stamping platforms, and then I'm just going to come in with my finger daubers. This also means that because of the grid on the sticky grid, I can line up the stencil, so I'm butting it against the little ridge on the left hand side of my stamping platform, and then I'm lining it up with the 1 inch mark at the top, so I know that every single time it's going to be in exactly the same place, so I don't have to line things up, I just simply have to put them down. So it was fairly simple, and these all have numbers. I think I showed you before. They are all numbered. It's all etched into them really, really clearly, so you know there's 1 through 6. Now there is only 2 stencils for the leaves, which I like it. It makes it really simple. It's not complicated. And then there are 4 for the flowers. I feel like you could easily get away with using 2, if not 3. And so that was also something that made me happy, that I felt like I didn't have to add all the layers to complete the flower as such. However, I added all 4 and it ended up working out just fine. So you can see I don't need anything to hold down my stencils. It's held down by the sticky grid. I chose to go through yellows through oranges, I guess, almost orangey reddish, I guess, but that was just because I don't have a huge range of colours, as I said, and the Distress Oxides for me are not the perfect stamping ink, so I like stencils because it means that obviously I can add the colour as I wish, and the first layer here it does not have to be perfect at all, because it is going to get absolutely, you know, changed from what you first see here. So it's really easy to go through and line up all of these. I would definitely recommend. I have another one that I'm going to try out, and I might even film, which is the one that has sort of more foliage and leaves and some flowers. So I thought I might try that one. And I also have a really fun technique. Actually, that's another video I thought I should make using these, because when you purchase a set like this, you really don't want just one way to use it. You want lots of different ways that are going to give you really different looks. So I think I might do a few of these if you're interested. And of course, it doesn't just apply to the Lisa Horton Crafts ones. It can apply to all the companies that do this. I have done this a little bit a while ago. I can't remember the brand I used, but just a way that you can change these up, because as I said, if we're going to invest in craft supplies, we want to know that there are lots of different ways that we can use them. Now here are these flowers. Yes, they are absolutely stunning. Super easy to line up, and I love the result. So this is where we're going to move on to the die. Now I'm not sure how they do it. I honestly haven't watched a video, but for me it felt natural to first of all die cut and then emboss, just because then we won't lose any of the detail of the embossing. Now at this point, if you're not sure how to line up your die, I always run the die through a scrap piece of paper, then you line that up on top of your project. So you line up the negative on top of your project, and then you can get the perfect positioning, then slot your die in on top of this, and because it's already cut through that first layer, you're not actually cutting through 2 layers at all, your die is going to cut perfectly, and you know that it's going to be lined up, because you do not want at this point to have your die slicing through some beautiful leaves or some beautiful petals that you've already created and worked hard on. So this is just one good way to ensure that that does not happen. Then I hold this in place with a little bit of mint tape. As I said, I do not want this shifting. Run this through my die cutting machine, and it cuts out all of the bits in between the leaves as well. Stunning. I really, really like this. And then once I have done the die cutting, I am also going to run this through the embossing folder. Now, I think when you do it this way around, I feel like, on camera at least, it feels really hard to see the detail. But in real life, it does give it a lot of dimension. I guess it's hard on camera to pick it up because of all the color that is used. But I'm just going to line this up. Now I'm going to line it up with the other side that I was just figuring out how this goes. And then of course run it through with an embossing mat. So it gives it lots of gorgeous dimension. So here it's really a little bit tricky to see, but it is stunning, and it does just add that extra layer. Now, as I said, I've got another video coming up where I show you another way that we can go about using it without having to use the stencils. So if you only just bought one pack, for example, if you bought the embossing folder and the die. Now, this is the background here. I am actually going to, this cuts a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch rectangle. I am just going to cut off a little bit off the side so it comes just inside the card base. And then to glue this down, you could have used some double-sided adhesive sheets. However, I'm running low of my Stick It double-sided adhesive sheets. Now, these I love because they are so thin for die cutting, and all of the other ones I've tried are just thicker. They're just thicker. So if you know of a good brand that I can probably get hold of here in New Zealand used for die cutting, so that it's going to be nice and thin, double-sided adhesive sheets, then let me know in the comment section down below, because I'm not sure what's happening with these Stick It adhesive sheets, but I'm finding them tricky to get hold of. So if you know of another brand. Now, at the moment, I think this is quite bright, so I'm going to take some Lawn Fawn vellum here and use this to just tone down the background a little bit. You can still see the pattern beautifully, you can still see everything very clearly. I've added some double-sided adhesive tape to the back of my die cut, and I am going to use this to hide all of the adhesive essentially. Now, this is going to go on top of the vellum, and then I will flip it over and put more adhesive on the other side of the vellum as well to adhere it down to my card base. Now, this is going to be plenty to hold onto it because the image is rather large, so I just line everything up. I'm going to have it slightly set off to the left, pop it down, and then do the same thing all over again with more adhesive. You absolutely don't have to dull down the background, but I love the Lawn Fawn vellum. It's a thicker vellum, which means I can also dry emboss with it as well. I can heat emboss with it, which is important to me. It's sort of an all-round good vellum, which is what I like my craft products to be. I like them to be versatile. So once I have put the adhesive on the back here, I'm going to line this up again. And then I just need a little sentiment to go on this one. I absolutely could have stamped one out, but I am trying to use up what I have a little bit. And a little while ago, in fact a long while ago, a really long while ago, I purchased the Paper Rose sentiments, which I absolutely love. I purchased the black and white and the all occasions, and now I'm just trying to use up the very scraps that I have left of those, because as I said, we want to value for money. So these are the black background with the white text that come in those, and I think this really, it looks lovely because it stands out a lot from the colourful background and colourful focal point that I've chosen. So it says, wishing you a fabulous day. Again, this could be used for lots of different occasions too. Thank you so much for joining me today. As usual, links will be down below, and I can't wait to see you in the next video. Let me know what you think of this one, and I will see you later. Bye!